Welcome back to the Mosaic of the Lamb and our study on the Song of Songs. Today we're in chapter 5. We ended with chapter 4 at the end, and it's important to note as we jump into this particular passage today is that the Shulamite bride ended off with saying, "Awake, O north wind, awake, O south wind, blow with your spirit wind, spare nothing, as you make me your fruitful garden." She's saying, bring on the good, bring on the bad, do whatever it takes for me to be transformed into your image. That's important to note because, we're going to see that happen. So, starting in verse 1, chapter 5, it begins with the bridegroom now replying. And he says, "I have gathered from your heart my equal, my bride. I have gathered from my garden all my sacred spices, even my myrrh. I have tasted and enjoyed my wine within you. I have tasted with pleasure my pure milk, my honeycomb, which you yield to me. I delight in gathering my sacred spice. All the fruits of my life I have gathered from within you, my paradise garden." Just pause right there for just a second. It's really important to listen for a moment how often he says my, right? He says, you are my garden, you are my wine, you are my pleasure, my honeycomb, my milk, my delight, all these things that he is saying, you are mine, right? She says, I am my beloved's and my beloved is mine. It's that same thought that Jesus is claiming you as his reward. The scripture tells us that Jesus endured the suffering of the cross for the reward, for the hope set before him. Well, that reward was you and I for Jesus. That was you and I. And now he's saying, I'm drinking in the reward that I find in you, which is not always a thing that we talk about a whole lot, but we get to love on Jesus and we get to praise him and worship him and we feel like we get rewarded all the time. And yet Jesus is over here saying, no, you are my reward. Your garden is my reward. Your wine and your honey and all these things. And you kind of see the nuances here is that he says, your garden, the milk and honey, which sounds like the Garden of Eden, the Promised Land, all these things, the new wine, very kind of ideas throughout all of Scripture. And yet he's saying, look, you say I'm your promised land. You say I'm the Garden of Eden. And yet Jesus is saying, you are my promised land. You're my Garden of Eden. You are my reward. And we don't talk about that a lot because we want to stay humble. But at the same time, we have to recognize, and I think it's important for our identity that we realize that we're not just over here like living our best life and Jesus is like, it's the best that I could do. No, in reality, you ravish his heart and you astound Jesus just by loving him the way that you do. And so that's a very comforting fact to know. One, that I just please him. I think that's all of our questions, isn't it? Man, do I please you, Jesus? Do I actually, are you happy with me? And when we read this passage, we can see, oh, wow, I've so underestimated how much he loves me. So then he says, come, all my friends, feast upon my bride, all you revelers of my palace. Feast on my lovers. Feast on her, my lovers. Drink and drink and drink again, and you can take no more. Drink the wine of her love. Take all your desire, you priests. My life within her will become your feast. Excuse me. So this is kind of pointing to the picture. I'm reminded of the passage. I believe it's is it Ezekiel or Isaiah, one or the other. But that the stream that comes out of the temple flows down, and on the banks are trees growing by the river, and the leaves are for the healing of the nations. And we are called oaks of righteousness, and we're the trees that grow on the side of the bank that are drinking up the water from the presence of the temple, from the presence of God, but our leaves are for the healing of the nations. In this same way, what Jesus pours into you was created to come out of you for the restoration, the life, and the healing of others. And so Jesus says, whoa, your love is so good, it's so pure, it's so beautiful. All of you, come, drink of this. Jesus poured his life out, and now he calls us to pour our life out. He was sent into the world. We were sent into the world. He's showing this same format and picture. And now the Shulamite bride doesn't actually reply, but it's kind of like a shift in the story. Imagine the timeline. This is the timeline shifts just a little bit. And she says, after all of this, you can imagine time progresses a little bit. And she says, after this, I let my devotion slumber, but my heart for him stayed awake. So she's sleeping and yet awake. And that's where kind of the nuance of a dream comes in. And it says, I had a dream. I dreamed of my beloved. He was coming to me in the darkness of night. The melody of the man I love awakened me. I heard his knock at my heart's door as he pleaded with me. So he's knocking on the door of her heart, which is also sounds like the passage from Revelation where he stands at the door and knocks. And if you will answer, he will come in and feast with you. And if you overcome, then you will be seated on the throne just as he was seated on the throne. He comes in the darkness of the night on an unexpected time, and he's knocking on the door of her heart, and he's saying, will you let me come in and bring something new? Will you let me bring revelation? Will you let me take you to a new place? Will you open the door to let me come bring you into a new place? So she goes, he's pleading with me, and this is what he says, the bridegroom. Arise, my love. Open your heart, my darling, deeper still to me. Even all that they've been through, all the transformation, all the feasting, all the opening up, all that, and yet he says, I want to go deeper. Open your heart even deeper. Will you receive me this dark night? It's interesting. It's like dark in the evening. It's late in the night. It's kind of painting us a picture. There is no one else but you, my friend and my equal. I need you this night to arise and come with me. You are my pure, loyal dove, a perfect partner for me, my flawless one. Will you arise? For my heaviness and tears are more than I can bear. I've spent myself for you throughout the dark night. This is painting a picture of Gethsemane. Dr. Brian Simmons talks about this and expounds on this, and I really think it is beautiful. He says he comes late in the night. He says, I've been up all through the night, praying and travailing for you. And in like other passages, it says that his hair is wet with dew. His hair is wet with the dew of the night, often it says. And that's where we get to see, well, when was Jesus up through the night, wet with the dew in his hair, travailing and praying? Well, that's in the Garden of Gethsemane. It's a picture of Jesus suffering for love for you and I. And remember in the story of Gethsemane, he brings his disciples and he says, I'm going to go up forward here and I'm going to pray. You guys stay here and pray. Watch and pray with me. And what happens in their human weakness, they fell asleep, and he comes back and he wakes them and he says, can you not at least pray with me for just a while? He says, I feel like I'm going to die. I'm fixed in my soul. And what happens is that in their own weakness and their lack of passion, and they don't know, they fall asleep, and he has no one. He has no one to stay up with him in the suffering love of that night. And it's kind of like humanity dropped the ball on Gethsemane night. to stay up with their Lord. And yet the cry is still being sent out to all of creation. Will you join Jesus in his suffering love for this world? That was a peak climax of Jesus in his love for this world, suffering and travailing. And yet, where was humanity? He was carrying us in him, but where's our partnership in that? And I think there's still a cry going out, perhaps, of will you join Jesus in his suffering for this world? Will you travail? Will you stay up with him? And he's saying, if you will open this door, I will give you a new revelation of suffering love that will ignite you to do things you've never done before, to go places you've never gone, and to be able to make it through trials that you've never made it through. Will you partner with me, even in the Gethsemane moment? We were there with him on the cross. We were there with him in the grave. We were there with him in the resurrection. We were there with him in the ascension. Were we there with him also in the Gethsemane garden? So the bride replies. She says, I have already laid aside my own garments for you. It's kind of an interesting statement. How could I take them up again, since I've yielded my righteousness to yours? You have cleansed my life and taken me so far. Isn't that enough? My beloved reached into me to unlock my heart. The core of my very being trembled at his touch. How my soul melted when he spoke to me. My spirit arose to open for more of his touch. As I surrendered to him, I began to sense his fragrance, the fragrance of his suffering love. It was the sense of myrrh flowing all through me. Now just stop there. Let's talk about what's happening here. She says something very interesting. She says, I have already laid aside my garments. And this is in the notes here of Brian Simmons. He talks about, well, what are garments always a picture of in the Bible? Well, they're always a picture of our righteousness and holiness. Because it says that our works are as filthy rags before him. That we see those before the throne with white robes of righteousness and holiness. It's always a picture. He says, even though you're as scarlet, you'll be made as white as snow. There's always a transformation of what we wear because it's a picture of our identity. It's a picture of our righteousness and our own ability of what we put on. Adam and Eve tried to cover themselves with fig leaves. And the thing about fig leaves is that when the sun hits them, they shrink. And so they tried to cover them with fig leaves, but the thing is that under the light of the sun, they shrunk up and still couldn't cover it. Only a lamb could do that. And so this is kind of the same picture. And what's beautiful in the way that this is translated is she says, I've laid aside my garments. I don't even try to do this on my own anymore. She basically is saying, after everything that we've gone through in the last 4 chapters for us, I've seen that I'm perfect to you, I'm holy to you, nothing I can do can change the way that you see me. I'm not as afraid as I used to be anymore. Like she's being transformed, and she's realized that her own righteousness cannot get her there, and it doesn't help her get her there, and that it's purely a gift of his love. And so she says, I've given it up. I have stopped trying to do anything because I know that it doesn't help me become righteous. And so she says, why are you asking me? And how does this all reach together? Well, it's like this. He comes to her and he says, will you get up in the night with me? Will you travail? Will you pray? Will you come join with me in my suffering love? And she goes, but I'm already so loved by you. Why would I do that? I don't need to earn your love anymore, right? I've already laid aside my righteousness. And what she's about to discover is he's saying, no. I'm not giving you an activity to try to become righteous. I'm giving you an activity, I don't like that word, but it's about as good as I have at this moment. I'm giving you an act, an action, a thing. I'm giving you a task. Let's say that. I'm giving you a task that is an outflow of your righteousness, not a means to become righteous. He says, if you'll open the door to this new revelation, the revelation is, no, you can't earn righteousness. But now that you are, come join me in my love for this world. You're not trying to earn love from me now. Out of the outflow of my love, let's go love the world. And it's going to suffer and it's going to hurt. And there's going to be trials. But if you'll let me, I'll show you the depths of my love. This isn't about righteousness. This is about an outflow. And so, what he does is she's in the midst of coming up with these excuses. It says, my beloved reached into me and unlocked my heart. The core of my very being trembled. What he did is, listen, I'm not talking to you on a logic level. I'm not talking to you on a righteous level. You need a revelation of suffering love. Because if I unlock your heart, it is going to take you places. And he reaches into her, and you can imagine, he actually unlocks a door to something that she didn't know was inside her. And he pours his suffering love into her. He pours the Gethsemane man into her. And she begins to go, whoa, this is a whole new level. This is a whole new place. I've never experienced this before. And it says the fragrance of his suffering love. It was the sense of myrrh flowing all through me. The Holy Spirit was just flowing through her, and the myrrh, the fragrance of that bridegroom in the garden, pouring his life out for her, unlocked something new. And then in verse 6, it says, I opened my soul to my beloved, but suddenly he was gone. And my heart was torn out in longing for him. I sought his presence, his fragrance, but could not find him anywhere. You know, have you ever had an experience like that in your life? I know I have. It's kind of like you're in this season of your life that is so deep and intimate with the Lord. It's so real. It's just so radical. He's unlocking things that you never experienced. And then one day it just like stops. And when you've been in that place of depth and intimacy, it can be very disconcerting. Because I just want to live there. I just want to live in that moment. And yet he goes, whew. And he doesn't actually leave us because he tells us, I will never leave you, nor I will forsake you. We need to take that to the bank. And we need to realize that, no, he does not leave you, but there can be times that you are not aware of how close he is. Your senses can lie to you. And maybe not even lie to you. Sometimes, yes, obviously. We don't want to always believe just our senses and our feelings. They're good servants, terrible masters. But there can be a time that your senses are purposely pulled back to lead you into something else. Not as punishment, but as a movement of it's time to go somewhere new. And often he will do that in those seasons. And I think the deep seasons of his presence are formative to the seasons of movement. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes you need to go up on the mountain and have an encounter with him. Sometimes you just need to rest in that. And these can be whole seasons of just getting wrecked with him. I've had that. Or a whole just seasons, months, weeks, days of just, whoa, what is this? And then he like pulls that back, and it's not a punishment, but I think it's actually a reward of, okay, you're ready to move. So what he does here is she then goes, where did his presence go? I can't even smell his fragrance. Where did he go? And she's freaking out. And what is her response? I'm going to go find him. And I think that's the right response. We don't want to be running around looking for Jesus just so that we can get the high. But when he pulls his presence back, and it's not those deep, heavy moments anymore, this is the time that he's saying, okay, it's movement time. It's time to move. Because you're going to find me in a new place. You're going to find me in a new way. You're going to experience some new things. And sometimes you can be going through a trial. And we'll see that sometimes he, and I think often he does this, he will have great experiences and moments of love in him because he knows a trial is coming. Jesus gets baptized. The Father splits open the heavens and says, "This is my Son in whom I am well pleased, my beloved Son, I love him." And then right after that, he goes into the desert. And I think without the identity statement poured into him, would he have been able to make it through the desert? I don't know. But I think it was important that it came beforehand, right? In the same way, the Lord spoke openly before he went to the cross. But that was for those who were listening. So she says, "I sought his presence, his fragrance, but I could not find him anywhere. I called out for him, yet he did not answer me." Right? God is not hiding from you. He's often hiding for you. He says, she says, "I will arise and search for him until I find him." I love this. This bride has gone on such a journey of transformation. In the beginning, she's scared and fearful to go anywhere with him. She's laying on her couch and doesn't want to get up. She does all these things, and he builds her up, and he transforms her in love, and he's so patient with her. He never condemning, never shaming her for where she's at. But his love transforms her. This is what this whole book is about, is that love will always take you on a journey of transformation. And now that same girl, when he pulls back and kind of, removes himself a little bit. Instead, this time she says, "I'm going to go find him. I'm going to go look for him. I'm going to go get him." Like, I ain't backing down. We're seeing that she is being transformed. In verse 7, she says, "As I walked throughout the city in search of him, the overseers stopped me." Now, last time she encountered these overseers, they helped her find Jesus. But now this time, it says, "The overseers stopped me as they made their rounds. They beat me and bruised me until I could take no more. They wounded me deeply and removed my covering from me. Nevertheless, make me this promise, you brides to be. If you find my beloved one, please tell him I endured all travails for him. I've been pierced through by love, and I will not be turned aside." Wow. You see, the first time the leaders, the shepherds, brought her closer and helped her find Jesus. And yet other times there will be leaders and shepherds that will not like your passion, not like your love for Jesus, not like that you are searching on your own and pressing in, not like all of these things that you're doing. They won't like that you're up in the middle of the night going. They won't like that. Maybe it convicts them because of your passion. I don't know. There's generally two responses of people. They either love your passion or they hate it. There's either those that say, "Yes, give me some of your fire. I need some more fire." Or they go, No, I don't like your fire. Stop it. Your fire shows how cold they are. And that's kind of painting this picture. This time, this is a trial for her. The first time, she was going through a trial just because she was like, "I just got to find him." Now she's looking for him, and she knows she's going to find him. But now she comes up against trials. And she said, "Let the north wind blow, let the south wind blow. Let the good come, let the bad come." And now the good and the bad are here. And she's going, "Okay, if this is what it takes, I'm going." And God is not causing bad things to happen, but he knows that these things are coming, and he prepares her to go through them. He unlocks her with love before she goes through this trial, because he knows that this will unlock her to walk out her destiny. And what we see here is her response. It should be our response. When we go through trials, when we go through problems, when we meet people that are abusive to us, that even are supposed to be helping us, She says, no. She says, nevertheless, make me this promise. You brides-to-be. They're called Jerusalem maidens almost all the way through this book, and then they start becoming brides-to-be. They're the ones that are coming up behind her. They're the ones that are watching her. There may be some of the world that are wondering if they really want to follow Jesus. And she says, make me this promise, you brides-to-be. If you find my beloved, tell him I endured these travails for him. I've been pierced through by love, not by hate by these men, not by their anger, not by their punishment, but I have been pierced by love, and love is much stronger than their hate. She says, you pierced me, Jesus, with love, and that was much stronger than their piercings. I will not be turned aside. This should be our anthem. This should be our song. This should be what we live by. No matter the cost, no matter the pain, no matter the piercing, I have been pierced by love, and I will not be turned aside. And what we see is the Jerusalem maidens now reply, and you can see they are astounded at what they've just witnessed. They say, what love is this? What a statement. How could you continue to care so deeply for him? Isn't there another who could steal away your heart? We see your beauty, more beautiful than all the others. They're like, girlfriend, you are gorgeous. You could land anyone. What makes your beloved better than all the others? They don't get it. They're definitely asking questions. They say, you are so in love with him. What makes him so special? What is about him? What makes you ask us to promise you this? This is the testimony of the world, is that when we suffer for Christ, when we go through trials and pain, and we say, I will not turn back from my Jesus, it's going to make people go, wait a minute, why are you so in love with him? Why would you die for him? Why would you suffer for him? Why would even the people that hurt you in his name, and you still won't be turned back? What is it about this Jesus? That's the testimony of that's why suffering love is so powerful. We Christians don't always talk about suffering for Jesus, but sometimes suffering for Jesus is the greatest testimony of how lovely he is. In verse 10, she replies, he alone is my beloved. He shines in dazzling splendor, yet is so approachable. Without equal as he stands above others, outstanding among 10,000. The way he leads me is divine, his leadership so pure and dignified as he wears his crown of gold. Upon his crown are letters of black written on a background of glory. He sees everything pure, with pure understanding, how beautiful his insights without distortion. His eyes rest upon the fullness of the river of revelation, flowing so clean and pure. Looking at his gentle face, I see such fullness of emotion, like a lovely garden where fragrant spices grow. What a man! No one speaks words so anointed as this one. Words that both pierce and heal, words like lilies dripping with myrrh. See how his hands hold unlimited power, but he never uses it in anger, for he is always holy, displaying his glory. His innermost place is a work of art, so beautiful and bright. How magnificent and noble is this one, covered in majesty. He's steadfast in all he does. His ways are the ways of righteousness, based on truth and holiness. None can rival him, but all will be amazed by him. Most sweet are his kisses, even his whispers of love. He is delightful in every way and perfect from every viewpoint. If you ask me why I love him so, O brides-to-be, it is because there is none like him to me. Everything about him fills me with holy desire, and now He is my beloved, my friend forever. What a reply. One of the most beautiful passages in the Bible is really just, this is who Jesus is. And you could take every one of those phrases and sentences and nuances and dive into them. I think there's one particular one that really sticks out to me. It says, no one speaks words so anointed as this one. And it reminds me of the disciples. When Jesus says, you must drink my blood, you must eat my body, and everyone leaves him. Everyone leaves him. Thousands turn away. And he turns and he looks at his disciples. And he says, are you going to leave me too? And Peter replies, Teacher, where can we go? No one speaks with truth. Who has the words of life like you? They say, we're not leaving. Basically, they said, we can't find anyone with life like you've got. And we don't always understand your words. But the words that you speak, there's something on them. And we can't find that in anyone else. And sometimes that's what it's like walking with the Lord. And you'll see he will use people the same way. Is that you'll listen to a person speak, and you may think to yourself, I don't really know what he's saying, but I know that there's something on it. And I want to know what that is. And that's kind of what she's saying here. She's saying, who can talk like you? Who has it's not the words that you use, it's the anointing on your words. It says that his words both pierce and they heal. The sword is sharper. The sword of the Spirit is sharper than any two-edged sword, separating bone and marrow, spirit from flesh. It's that same idea that the spirit of what Jesus says, not just the words on a page Bible, as some people think. No, it's the word is Jesus, and only Jesus can separate the inseparable. Only Jesus can pull these two things, and only Jesus can be like a surgeon, both cut and heal. And so they say, why do you love him? And she says, well, I can't say it in one word, but let me tell you it in a song. There's no one like him. There's no one like him. And yet, he's not distant. He's not far. He is my beloved. He's mine. She's taking ownership. And she says, and he's my friend and my closest companion forever. That is the invitation to us. And that's why this was so formative to the early church, because suddenly we see that we can say those same words. Those are us. We are the Shulamite. And you can say, he's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced, and he's mine forever. Thank you for joining me today. Join us next time as we dive into the next chapter and continue to see the culmination of this journey begin to have its full fruitfulness.